If you're watching this video from the future, and I assume you are, I think there's a couple of things you'll need to understand. You see, back in the first quarter of 2019, a game was released. One that was so popular and so full of hype that Instagram feeds were full of its photography. Twitter continually talked about its gameplay, and everyone who didn't own a copy couldn't wait for its release date. So now that you understand this, you could think that maybe people were a little bit for the birds. So here's 5 things I think you need to know about Wingspan. Wingspan from Stonemaier Games is a game about wildlife preservation for 1 to 5 players, and it focuses primarily on birds. Lots and lots and lots of birds. The winner is the bird enthusiast to have created the best preserve after 4 rounds. This game is very much a tableau builder with a heavy dose of resource management. Your turn focuses on your player board, which represents your wildlife preserve, and from there you can perform a variety of actions, such as gathering food to feed your birds, laying eggs, which allows you to extend your wildlife preserve, and also drawing cards. Now, the birds you want to come to your preserve are in card form, and each have their own unique requirements before they'll willingly come and settle in your preserve. The more birds you have in a specific row enhance the ability that was originally there, so you can see why it might be interesting to combo things together. Each turn there's a specific goal you might want to meet to get bonus victory points, and at the end of the game each bird scores points. The number of eggs you have out score points, and the number of cards you have tucked under your other cards score points also. There's a nice little score pad tracker there to keep track of all the little bits and bobs to determine who is the winner. Okay, so similar games to Wingspan. I think the first things that came to mind were Gizmos from Untitled Games and then Alien Artifact from Portal Games, as both of these have you using cards to set up a tableau in which the more things you add to it the better it gets, but also the more expensive it gets. And that's definitely echoed in Wingspan, although I have to say Wingspan kind of has its own unique style on how things are put together that makes it feel quite different than the other 2 games. Setup is easy thanks to the kind of amazing game trays they have inside the box, which you literally lift out and put out the table. All you need to do is shuffle a few cards and you're pretty much ready to go. It takes about 40 minutes for 2 players to play and about 60 for 3, and this really depends entirely on the speed of your opponents. Gameplay as a whole though is rather timely. The rule book, apart from feeling amazing, I'm not sure what it's made of, but I'd like my whole house to be made of it, was also incredibly helpful. It kind of had a quick start guide to get you playing quickly and was very comprehensive when we had further questions or queries about specific cards or situations. It was a pretty impressive rule book. Replayability wise comes here in this fact that there are a bajillion different types of bird cards included in the game, so I think it would take you a very, very long time to get bored of this. It's got a lot of replayability value. Aesthetics wise, and it's tough to be objective here, I think Wingspan is probably the most beautiful game in my collection bar Scythe, and it's a pretty close competition. This game just feels like so much love and care is being put into it. The artwork is stunning and it's also engaging. I love that they added a little bit of information about each bird onto each card, so you too can feel like an ornithologist while you play the game. To really understand the kind of the thought process and the amount of love that's been put into this game, you just need to look at the 3D birdhouse, which is entirely unnecessary for gameplay, but adds so much to player experience and also to table presence. So you can see where their focus has really been on. It's been on you, the player. So what's so special about Wingspan? I think it has to be its approach to gameplay. It's a really easy, relaxing and fun game to play, but it doesn't reduce itself to kind of a throwaway. Don't let the cute little birds fool you. There's tons of depth and strategy here. Okay, so what do I really think about Wingspan? Firstly, the negatives. Okay, the first negative I have, like these are all niggly, right? But they're negatives, right? They're niggly negatives. Is the score pad in the game. It's completely functional. It's some lines on a piece of paper. The problem is that everything else in this game is just so gorgeous that it makes the score pad look really like an afterthought. And so I wish they had done something a little bit more with that. And I think that's just the fault of the fact that, you know, everything else in the game looks so great. The second issue I have is that there is a little board, and on it shows you what like special scoring thing there is this round, and tiles go across the top of it and they're placed randomly so that they're different each time you play. I found the tiles to be a little on the small side. I know I repeatedly had to ask exactly what it was scoring this round, and that was only with 2 or 3 players. I can imagine this at a higher player count being even more problematic. That may be just something of my own issues. I don't know, but I do wish those tiles had been bigger. The final thing I need to point out about this game is that if you're looking for player interaction, then you may go find another game. This is not what this game is about. Positives. I'd be lying if I didn't say the art and the components. A huge part of what makes this game appealing to me is how it looks and feels. And I'm not normally kind of picky when it comes to aesthetics. However, there's something incredibly appealing about Wingspan. And that in itself is another issue, how appealing the game is. I find myself wanting to play it all of the time. Now mostly I blame the bird on the box, he just looks specifically inviting. But I can't think of a scenario where I wouldn't willingly play Wingspan. Not even possibly on my deathbed. But despite all the hype and the pretty, I think the thing I love most about Wingspan is how it makes me feel as a player. The little interaction allows me to play my own game at my own pace. The fact that you don't really know who's winning right till the end gets rid of a very competitive element, so you can just sit back and enjoy your game. And of course it's pretty and it's engaging to play with. As a whole, this game allows me to enjoy what I love most about gaming, and I think this is why it appeals to so many people. So, do I think you should have Wingspan in your collection? Absolutely, yes. Normally when there's huge hype for a game, it's very difficult for a game to live up to that, right? When you've heard so many great things, you know, you have your own expectations raised. Wingspan has done absolutely nothing but exceed my expectations repeatedly. And I'd like to point out that there's a huge amount lost here in the translation of me telling you about the game and you actually playing the game. There is so much more to it than the reviews and that can ever explain for you. Now my copies come from Stonemaier Games. It hasn't influenced the way I felt about the game whatsoever because I was ready to buy it once I could buy it here in Europe. Way too expensive to ship from the States. So I don't want you guys to think that, you know, I have somehow been swayed by Stonemaier Games. I don't think they need my help in the first place. But this really is an absolutely phenomenal game, and I think it's one that a lot of players are going to enjoy. So, you've been watching Board Game Inquisition. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or queries you'd like to make about Wingspan, please leave them in the comments below. I'd really love to hear from you. And until next time, I'll be here playing games, asking questions, and of course perusing my collection. Take care, and of course there's always time for another game of Wingspan. Oh, Wingspan!